Welcome to the Shootin' Show. Stand by for shots fired.
Hello, I'm Johnny Rowland, your host of the Shootin' Show, and welcome to today's program. We're so glad to have you. We have a lot of things we think you're going to be interested in finding out about today. We have some information through the judge that he really has some things that are so important to let you folks know about. Well, you know, friends, squirrel season is not that terribly far away. And what we have here is a Ruger 1022 supplied to us by Britain's gun shop there in Shreveport. And these are really neat little guns. Well, let's go ahead and get another Shootin' Show started. Now then, this 22 is fine for squirrels, but what about if you happen to run into a wild hog like we have here in Louisiana? Well, that's what you have your 44 Magnum along for. Settle that. Now friends, we're looking today at one of the most important guns that you can probably own. And of course this is the great 1022 by Ruger. And I don't know if by coincidence or by design, you'll notice that it's almost identical in size to the, if I can keep the magazine from dropping there, little juggling act there, almost identical in size to this M1 carbine. And that's pretty amazing. I don't know if Ruger said, well, hey, the M1 carbine is something that everyone's familiar with, why not just build a 22 about that same size? But there are a lot of advantages to a gun this size, one of which is children and women who are unfamiliar with firearms can very easily and simply learn to properly handle one of these little 1022s at a young age, or certainly it's not going to be a gun that they would be afraid of because it does look pretty tame actually. But in all truth, these 1022s are among the most high performance firearms out there simply because what can be done with them. You might see this as those of you who are interested in cars, as a small block Chevrolet, because there's so much stuff that can be done to one of these to make it perform extremely well. You know, we featured Jim Clark conversions on the program before, his squirrel specials, his competition guns, and they will shoot into a phenomenal group out at 50 and even at 100 yards. I believe they guarantee about half-inch 5-shot groups at 50 yards with their 1022 conversion. Now then, the stock guns are plenty accurate enough for the shooting that most of us are going to be doing. And one of the good things about having a completely stock gun, typically when guns are accurized, especially on the 22s, the chambers are tightened up. The chambers have closer tolerances. Now then, there's quite a variation in 22 long rifle ammunition. You know, by looking at two cartridges, you may not be able to see the difference, but when you get a caliper or a micrometer down there and start measuring, a thousandth of an inch here, a thousandth of an inch there will really make a difference. And there is quite a bit of disparity among different brands of 22 long rifle ammunition. Well, these Rugers are made to feed and function with just about anything within reason, and they certainly do that extremely well. These are among the most rugged little guns that I'm aware of out there. I don't know how long you'd have to shoot one of these things in hopes of wearing it out. Who knows? That's quite a question. You know, we had this little 22/45 Ruger on the program a while back, and these are certainly some of the best 22 long rifle semi-automatic pistols made, and I have to say that about the 1022 also. And yes, I'm saying that cause is true, because you know, if you've been watching this program, that Ruger has never bought 10 cents worth of advertising on this program. Not yet. So I guess there's always hope, but we're going to say that they certainly do know how to build a 22 semi-automatic rifle and handgun, for that matter, and some other stuff too. They have some other stuff that's real good, but these are a couple, and certainly this gun in particular is among the most useful guns you can have. You can mount a scope in it and squirrel hunt with it. You can use it in the various types of 22 competition. If you need super accuracy, well, you can send it to someone like Jim Clark or the Von Quartzen, I believe that's how you say that company, and they can make these things into super accurate 22 long rifles. Well, they come with a 10 round. In fact, that's part of where it gets its name, the 10/22. It comes with a 10 round rotary magazine, and these are pun intended bulletproof magazines. I suppose they have been perfected long ago. They work extremely well with most any bullet profile, and this is okay with your government. However, there are some other magazines out there. This particular one is a Ramline, and it's a 30 round magazine. And I see the U.S. Air Force is paying us a visit today. This is a 30 round magazine, and I have seen some larger capacity magazines than this, and some of these high capacity magazines for the Little Ruger were pretty good. Some of them weren't, but this Ramline that we have here is really good. It's functioning extremely well. Got our jet pass over there. I wonder if we're keeping watch on us out here today. Anyway, these are still available at gun shows. A lot of distributors and gun shops bought quite a number of these higher capacity magazines, and they're still out there. Now, they're higher than they were. Britain's had this one priced at, I believe, $25, and it's essentially a new magazine. I don't know if it's new or used, but it's certainly not worn. But they're still out there. And you know, friends, it just beats heck out of me on why your government does not trust you and I to own these high capacity magazines. They can't be sold new anymore. They can't make them anymore and sell them to the general public. It's the silliest thing that ever happened. You know, if you're going to commit a crime, a single shot would be enough, or certainly 10 or ever what. It's just people who don't know or don't care anything about firearms who are trying to legislate our rights away from us. And it's just another, you know, just more erosion, just another brick out of the wall. And that's why we're here. That's why the shooting show is on the air, because you know what, friends? If you know where your politicians stand, if you know what's going on in Washington, where some of these people are what they're actually doing, you'll know how to vote, and we'll elect some decent people for a change from a lot of what we've had. So we think that's why this is so important. Well, let's take a closer look at the little 10/22. Now, friends, trust me, they've had enough practice with these guns to really know how to make them right. Of course, you have it's drilled and tapped here for scope mount, but these are very, very simple guns. They're straight blowback. You can see the action here. This may or may not be stainless steel, the bolt, I really don't know, but certainly with a little bit of lubricant, it's nothing to worry about. This is, of course, the magazine. Well, here is your 10-round magazine. All you have to do is insert it right here and just snap it in place. Here's your safety mechanism, and let's go ahead and take our magazine out. Push this button here and it'll come right out. Now then, you have a bolt hold open device, which is right here. Just press it and it holds the bolt open for cleaning, which is a very handy situation there. Not all rifles have that, not all 22s anyway. So very nicely made package, very simple and relatively inexpensive. To release the bolt now, you just push it forward on the top there and let it go. Well, let's go ahead and load it and see if we can take a couple of shots with it. Now then, friends, we have our magazine in place. Let's go ahead and fly bolts all the way to the rear and let it go, certainly. And if I can keep from bumping the camera, we'll be that much better off. Anyway, we'll go ahead and push our safety off, which is right here. And let's see, we're going to try to make this just like you were looking down it. Now, friends, for teaching a young person to shoot, or certainly a woman, or just for plinking fun for whoever you may be. Heck, you may be a professional big game hunter in Africa, but you'll still enjoy one of these great Ruger 10/22s. Well, let's put in our 30-round magazine here, and we'll load our gun. Of course, the beauty part about having the long magazine, you just don't have to reload that often. Some people, I've even heard of these guns being used as far as home defense. I don't trust any semi-automatic 22 in a home defense situation unless that's all I had. Now, these are among the most reliable 22 long rifle semi-automatics made probably in the world, but any 22 rimfire is going to occasionally misfire. I don't care what it is, so you have to be prepared to deal with that. I would certainly always go for some sort of centerfire, more like a handgun than I would one of these for home defense. However, if that's all you got, and this is something that the thing is, you can practice so much with these, you can get real good with them. And I've known people who can strike matches with with one of these and do a lot of other things with these 22 long rifles. So certainly, they're just great all-around guns to have. You know, Carrie, I think it's as important for you ladies to know how to use these firearms as it is for us men. But you know, there's something else. We can have firearms for defense of our homes and certainly for sport, but we also need information.
Yes, I agree. I think the New American Magazine is the best source of information available in this country.
Well, I would certainly agree. The New American Magazine is the truth and nothing but the truth. And friends, if you would like to know what is really going on in this country and around the world, if you want, in fact, the truth, well, you need to get the New American Magazine. So here's how to do it. You can get the New American by calling 1-800-727-TRUE-TRUE. And those numbers, of course, are 1-800-727-8783. The New American, $22 for a 6-month subscription. It comes twice a month. Now, friends, with your new Shootin' Show subscription, they will also send you a free copy of what the United Nations is bringing to all of us. So this is very important. Subscribe today. You know, friends, in times like these, which indeed are strange times, we certainly need our firearms, but we also need the information about what's really going on. Order today. You know, friends, this box of Corbin ammunition and this Wesson 41 Magnum are, in fact, a perfect match for each other. But it doesn't matter whatever gun you may have, like this SKS or a hunting rifle or a 38 Special or a 9mm, makes no difference, because Corbin is absolutely the best factory ammunition that money can buy, period. And also, friends, when you see a box of Corbin on the shelf or you give them a call, realize that Corbin is helping keep the Shootin' Show on the air. They've been one of our most dedicated sponsors. You cannot find finer people in the entire shooting industry. For information on Corbin ammunition, call them 1-800-626-7266. Again, 1-800-626-7266. Tell them you saw it on the Shootin' Show.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
Many people labor under the notion that the American Revolution was won by a group of sturdy backwoodsmen armed with the Kentucky rifle. In fact, nothing could be further from the truth. Though backwoodsmen armed with Kentucky rifles did fight and win one battle, Kings Mountain, the vast majority of the combat in the American Revolution was linear warfare on the European model. The American Revolution was won by the Continental line, using the smoothbore musket and the bayonet. I would like to cover this point from the technical end only. To put it simply, the rifle was not technically ready for general combat use. It was, of course, far more accurate than the smoothbore musket, and this accuracy translated into an increase in combat range. But the price paid for this increase was a drastic decrease in volume of fire, plus one or two other disadvantages. A smooth bore is exactly what the name implies. The bore is smooth, much like the interior of an ordinary pipe. But in a rifle, spiral grooves are cut in the bore. It looks something like this. What appears as high spots in the barrel are lands, and the distance from the land on one side to the land on the other side is called the bore diameter. The low areas are the grooves, and the distance from the bottom of the groove on one side to the bottom of the groove on the other side is called groove diameter. The rifle gains its accuracy because the projectile spins in flight. In order to gain this spin, the bullet has to be groove diameter so that the lands can engrave corresponding notches on the side of the bullet and thereby induce this spin as the bullet travels down the barrel. But if you have a muzzle loader, how do you load the bullet from muzzle down to breech? In the Kentucky rifle, the problem was solved by taking a ball very near to bore diameter and wrapping it in a lubricated cloth patch. Because the cloth patch was relatively easy to cut, this patch had the notches engraved on it at the muzzle when it was loaded, and this patch then acted as a sabot when the weapon was fired. These weapons were made on the frontier by individual rifle makers. The ramrods were of wood, partly due to ease of manufacture and partly to avoid wearing away the rifling and the soft barrel steels in use at the time. The wooden ramrod, though it has great compressive strength, cannot take much bending or shear force. Care had to be taken in loading so as not to break the ramrod. In order to reduce the resistance to loading to the lowest level possible, the patches were normally very heavily lubricated with tallow or grease or some other similar substance. This lubrication, which might contaminate the powder if left in contact for a long time, plus other obvious problems with the patch, made the paper cartridge of the musket impractical. Therefore, the shooter normally had to carry patches, ball, and powder as separate components and load them individually into the muzzle of the weapon. In order to load, the shooter poured powder from his powder horn into a measuring cup. He then poured this powder down the barrel, centered a patch on the muzzle, centered a ball on the patch, started it in the muzzle with his thumb, and then used a starter ramrod. The use of this starter ramrod is essential, for the resistance to cutting those notches is far greater than the strength of man's grip on this ramrod. So the starter ramrod to start the ball and then get it farther down the barrel so as to act as a guide for the wooden ramrod. Now pull out the wooden ramrod and with short strokes so as not to twist the ramrod, seat it down on the powder and then return the ramrod underneath the barrel. Some shooters did use a loading block. This loading block was nothing more than a piece of wood with holes drilled in it and patch ball combinations seated into those holes. This did speed up the loading a little bit. Not that it helped you get it down the muzzle, but it helped the shooter keep all of the various components together. You should remember that all of these things needed to load the Kentucky rifle were either carried on thongs around the shooter's neck or had to be carried in pouches slung across his shoulder. Once the ball was seated on the powder, the shooter could now prime the weapon. Because the bore of the Kentucky rifle was normally very small, the touch hole, pan, frizzen, and hammer were also correspondingly small. So small, in fact, that the large granulations of powder for the main propellant charge were too large to be used in the pan. Therefore, the shooter had to carry a second powder horn with a fine granulation of powder for priming the pan. After closing the frizzen, the shooter was now ready to fire. We will show you this reproduction Kentucky rifle in action against a flintlock smoothbore. For ease of viewing, All of these loading components for the Kentucky rifle will be on a stand right beside the shooter. The musket firer would have only one large pouch with a number of paper cartridges in this pouch, and the pouch would be rigidly held to his body, normally in front with the flap tucked back underneath his waist belt. In fact, a musket shooter could find his cartridges in that pouch just as easily as our demonstration shooter will find them on the stand beside him. The Brown Bess's target will be 50 yards downrange, but will not be shown. The accuracy of the Kentucky rifle is quite obvious, but all is still not bliss. Adjustable sights had not then been invented. Therefore, at the longer ranges, the shooter had to compensate by aiming off the target, the so-called Kentucky windage. In the scene you just watched, I basically aimed dead between the breast pockets of my targets at 80 yards. But at 185 yards, I was aiming level with the top of the head of the target and slightly to the left, and still hit just a bit low right. The ball ricocheted off the ground into the torso and knocked the target down. This would correspond to striking a standing infantryman somewhere in his left thigh. However, Kentucky windage is a relatively nebulous thing and varies greatly from rifle to rifle. The only way it can be learned is through constant firing at a variety of targets. It is something that von Steuben, for example, could not necessarily teach through repetitive drill. If the sights had been adjustable, there would still be no real advance. Most Kentucky rifles varied from 40 to 50 caliber. In the case of this reproduction, I was firing a .445 diameter ball. It weighs 129 grains and exits the muzzle at a bit less than 1,600 feet per second. For a black powder weapon, this is close to the maximum possible velocity. Even then, this Kentucky rifle is only slightly more powerful than a pistol of today chambered for the 9mm Luger cartridge. Because this round leaden ball has a terrible ballistic coefficient, what velocity and energy it did have rapidly decayed due to air resistance. At 185 yards, the weapon has roughly the energy and effect of a 9mm pistol at 130 yards. On the chart, we see the combat range is increased. I have called this battle sight range, but remember, anything beyond 80 or 90 yards requires aim-off or Kentucky windage. The trade-off for range is its greatly reduced volume of fire, and 1.5 rounds per minute is probably generous. In the scene you just watched, it took 52 seconds per round. Lastly, the Kentucky rifle mounted no bayonet. When the enemy closed, as he certainly would because of the low rate of fire, there was no choice but to fight with clubbed rifles and knives. When Kentucky riflemen attempted to stand and fight, they almost invariably were swept from the field. They were effective and made a contribution only when the leader understood the weapon's strengths and advantages and weaknesses and wove this into his organization and battle plan. An example of this is the Battle of Cowpens, where Daniel Morgan arranged his defending troops in 3 general defensive belts, with the Kentucky riflemen being in front near where the houses are today. His instructions to them were to fire 2 rounds only and then retire along a predetermined path to a sheltered area in the rear. The riflemen did considerable damage to Tarleton's forces, who, when they closed on the riflemen's position, found themselves confronted with 2 defensive belts of the Continental line, the last being near the hedge. I think my statement at the beginning has perhaps become overly obvious. The Kentucky rifle was not technically ready for general combat use. The American Revolution was won by the Continental line, armed with the flintlock musket and the bayonet.
Stay tuned for more of The Shootin' Show after these important messages.
You know, friends, all of us as shooting enthusiasts should be subscribing to Shotgun News, the trading post for anything that shoots. 3 big issues monthly with literally thousands and thousands of firearms bargains. Give them a call, 1-800-345-6923, a very inexpensive subscription price. Again, 1-800-345-6923. Subscribe today. The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
Tri-tote's real easy to use because all you have is a hook on your waist and you have another hook on a strap. Okay, so all you do is you're hanging your gun up like you would on a peg gun rack. There is never anything attached to your equipment when you use a tri-tote. Okay, you just set the gun with one hook behind the trigger guard and the other hook on the barrel. To use it, you just push in towards your chest, pick the gun up to shoot it. Basically, you got 7 different positions anywhere you want to range the barrel of the gun by just taking it off, It's a piece of Velcro strap onto a Velcro shoulder pad. You just put the gun into it, pick it up and shoot it any way you want. I know a lot of people like to walk around with their gun over their wrist. In this position, tucked up under your arm, it's real comfortable, except it breaks your wrist. Set the gun with the hook in front of the trigger guard, and you got the same position, except your hands free always. And what you want to do is you can take your trigger finger right at the trigger guard, pick the gun right up off the pod, and then you got it ready to shoot. Okay? The other position that you have is when you set the butt of the gun right on the hook on the side, and you can just hold your gun for field shooting in this manner, or you can just rest it back on your shoulder, shrug your shoulder, hit the gun, catch it, and the gun comes up. It's that simple to use. A lot of people like to go out riding on their four-wheeler and their ATV, or climb into their deer stand, or drag their deer. You got a securing strap that just peels back. All you do is set it on the barrel of the gun, wrap the barrel up, and you have a little securing loop down here on the pod. Okay? You take that and you secure that right over the hook of the gun, so you're securing the top and the bottom. You can ride your four-wheeler, you can climb your tree stand in this manner. If you'd like to pull out your deer, you can open your waist belt up, drop your right hand down through your straps, bring your left hand back up through it. The gun immediately goes on your back. Buckle it up. Take away any of that slack. You don't want that. Just readjust it. Pull it up tight on your back, and that's the most secure back carry you'll ever have. You can drag your deer out any way you want to drag your deer out. Climb your hands, use your binoculars. You're always hands-free with the tri-tote.
Now, friends, due to the success and tremendous sales of the tri-tote, they've been able to increase their production and get the price down. Now, for our Shootin' Show audience, they're $29.95 plus $6.50 shipping and handling. Give them a call, 1-800-231-1443. Again, 1-800-231-1443. Everyone that carries any sort of firearm or fishing rod or whatever in the woods, this is really a great thing everybody ought to have. And now let's let our good friend J.D. Jones from SSK Industries take us to a submachine gun match.
Here we are at the second annual All-Ohio Submachine Gun Match at Tusco Rifle and Pistol Club. I'd like Dan here to tell you a little bit about the club and the match.
Tusco is primarily a rifle club. We have quite a few different ranges here. We have a 200-yard practice range, a 200-yard main range where we shoot high-powered silhouette. We have a trap range with 3 trap houses, 2 pistol ranges, and a small bore range. A few of us here a few years ago decided we'd hold a submachine gun match. This is the second one that we've held with pretty good success. We're shooting 3 different stages, approximately 30 targets per stage on full automatic only.
Actually, we're starting out here on stage 3. We have a lady competitor. The idea here is to knock down the black plates without knocking down the white. The white plates are hostages, and you're penalized if you hit the hostage. You notice that the shooter has to move from position to position. When the shooter's moving, he or she must have their finger outside of the trigger guard and the gun pointed in a safe direction, or they would be disqualified. You're shooting against time here, so time is important. A lot of these slow-firing guns can almost be shot on semi-automatic. In a lot of shoots, this wouldn't qualify, as 2 bullets have to be on the targets on some of them. In some shoots, not in this one. When she shoots the red one, that ends her time. Next up in the green is Ken Hackathorn, one of the finest action shooters in the world, whether you're talking about handgun, rifle, shotgun, or submachine gun. You're going to see some fine shooting here, folks. He's given the signal to load. That's how a real pro does it. Next up in the green is Rod Hott, who happens to be the Chief of Police of Sistersville, Ohio. And after you see him shoot, I'm sure you'll agree that you don't want to have any problems in Sistersville. He's shooting an MP5, 9mm. This is an MP5 SD. It is a silent submachine gun. The sounds that you're hearing are the sounds of the bullets hitting the targets. That's it for Rod. I think he beat Hackathorn's time. This is Rod. He just finished that excellent run we saw. Could you explain to the folks a little bit about the gun and how you feel about your run?
Yes, sir. This is my issue weapon. It's a Heckler & Koch MP5 SD, 9mm with a suppressor. Weapon of choice today. Its ease of controllability. Fine weapon for a match like this.
This is the second section. The shooter will start out from position 1 where he's at. Shoot the targets on that side of the yellow line. Run up to position 2. Get the targets in front of it. Go to position 3. And the last target out there, the red target, is his stop target. Okay, the shooter is given the instruction to make ready. Magazines while he was running. It saved him a lot of time. White targets are hostage targets and cannot be hit. There again, he should have changed magazines while he's running. First course fire, course A, There's about 28 to 30 targets there. Again, the red target on the right will be the target to stop the shooter's time. He has to fire through the doorway. He's been given the instruction to load, make ready. Whistle, he'll go.
Yeah, here's the only two good ones I found. Look.
Bad mistake. You should keep them in that holder. That's what it's for.
Dad, how do all these bullet shells sit up here?
He's disqualified for having had that magazine disqualified. It's a pair of magazines. You have to load each magazine.
Then we can go.
That's your big guy.
That's my favorite.
Oh, is it? Huh? No, that's just you.
Yeah,
Apparently out of ammunition. Those other two magazines are not using because the shooter is using a World War II MP3840. This is here's a man that's usually pretty good with an Uzi. This is probably the best Uzi shooter out here.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
Friends, we hope you're enjoying our program today. Let me mention our health club to you because so many people are starting to have such great results of some of these products. Friends, if you want to feel, it certainly made me feel about 20 years younger as far as the way I feel, certainly. It is absolutely a great opportunity. And also, we have some opportunities if you would like to make some extra money, if you'd like to get involved with our products. Well, please give us a call. You can call us, our 1-800 number, 1-800-895-7916. Leave your name and number. We'll get some information out to you. We'll have someone contact you. And please, if you haven't been contacted in the last several days since you called, well, don't worry. We're going to get to you eventually. Our staff is small, and if somehow or another you think we might have lost your phone call because we're getting so many calls, please call us back. That's perfectly all right. We're glad to hear from you. We also have a new product. We have an air purifier. You know, each one of us inhales about 15,000 quarts of air per day. Now that's a lot, and we have the most fantastic air purifier I've ever heard of. And if you have an allergy problem or anything like that, be sure and ask about that. We'll be happy to get you information on it. So please, friends, if you want to feel better, if you want to give yourself another chance, how many times have you heard it said, if I knew then what I know now, but I felt like I did then? So here's your chance from a tremendous number of you out there for you to feel like you did then, but you know what you know now. So please give us a call, 1-800-895-7916, Shootin' Show Health Club.
Friends, for information on the Shootin' Show Health Club, give us a call, 1-800-895-7916. Leave your phone number, your address. We'll have someone get back to you immediately. Again, the Shootin' Show Health Club, 1-800-895-7916. Friends, let's do it today.
Friends, we hope you're enjoying our program this evening or whenever you're watching us. We may be on in the afternoon when you see us. It is so important that we do what we do, and this evening as we're editing the program, you'll notice my esteemed colleague is not here, and he had a client with an emergency that he's having to take care of. And of course, he still is a practicing attorney, so he has to do some things, certainly. But we have some information here that I think that all of you will really want to know about. We have several things we need to briefly touch on. You know, a while back the judge made a statement that Benjamin Franklin said, and we have so many problems in this country because people say things, but they don't have their sources properly quoted. They don't have the information properly. And it's easy to say a statement that most of which is true, but you'll change a word here or there that may change the entire meaning. For instance, here's something from a little newspaper that comes out the country where we live. It's called Louisiana Methodist, and they have a word here from a gentleman who's a lay leader, and here's what he says. After the Constitutional Convention creating the United States, a lady asked Benjamin Franklin what form of government had been decided upon. His reply was, a democracy if you can keep it. That's not true. It was a republic if you can keep it. And this is a problem. So many people have most of the right information. They have sort of the right idea, but they don't get it right. And we're in trouble in this country because we're not properly researching or getting our information. And that was especially distracting there because the judge said that on the program a while back. You know, we've heard a lot recently. The United States has the vast majority of people who live in this country are right-thinking and decent individuals, but you do have some loonies on the side here that want to find fault with everything the United States has ever done. And one of the things that we've heard some controversy over recently has been over the when we dropped the atomic bomb on Japan to end World War II. And what a lot of these people are trying to find fault with us as a culture, us as a country, with our leadership at that time, and they're saying, oh, what a terrible thing to do, when the authorities say that it probably saved over 1 million lives, American lives, very possibly American lives, by dropping the atomic bomb. And what they neglect to say is that not only Japan, but Germany was also working on their own atomic bomb. And the Japanese, in fact, let me read you a quote here, and I'm reading from, this is a magazine called The World Ahead. It's a very fine news magazine, and one that I'm only becoming familiar with, but let me read here what was stated. There was a statement made in the Japanese Diet on February 7, 1944, when this physicist urged the Prime Minister to speed up the exploitation of uranium for military purposes.
that was a full 18 months before the first atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. And I believe Dan Rather has been calling it Hiroshima. Well, I think Hiroshima was correct there. You know, sometimes we get a little more culture than we can stand. But anyway, when the Allies became aware of their enemy's goals, they were forced reluctantly into entering the macabre atomic bomb race to beat the Axis powers to the draw, because Hitler was actually pretty close. A lot of people think that Hitler was closer than we all realized to developing the atomic bomb. Now, wait a minute, friends. If Adolf Hitler or even the Japanese had developed the atomic bomb, what do you think that would have meant? They would certainly have used it on us, and we'd all be speaking another language today. So really, it was a terrible thing, certainly to develop as far as a terrible weapon, but it saved countless lives, American and Allied lives, by literally ending World War II. And I think that it's ridiculous when these people start criticizing the leaders at that time for dropping the atomic bomb, because it was a necessary step. Certainly saved many, many more lives than it cost. One of the things that I've talked about on the program with Judge and I many times is what's happened to our society. And literally, the world's gone crazy. Our society has been taken over in so many areas by people that do not have our best interests at heart, that really represent a very small minority of nuts. But since they have gotten such control of the media, the organized news media, so many things in television, movies, and other, the PBS, the National Public Radio has so many strange voices that the voices of us, the decent citizen, the right-thinking citizen, is not heard. And that's why the Shootin' Show's on the air, because we represent most of America as right-thinking, decent gun owners. That's really true. We represent most of America. But in the past, our voices, as the majority, have been squelched, have been downplayed. We've been ridiculed for our beliefs, whether it be in our religion or our public school beliefs, our personal beliefs. Anything that we stand for has been ridiculed. Anything that has been worthwhile in the past so many times has been ridiculed by these people who literally want to destroy our own way of life. They have in mind for us a new America, a socialist America, one world, just as a part of the one world government. Hey, we don't want it. And I know most of you out there do not want it. And that's why it's so important that we do our job here, is saying how we, as decent American citizens, we happen to be gun owners, and we feel like that guns have gotten such a bad image through the movies and television that something has had to be done about it, and that's why we're on the air. We appreciate every last one of you being with us out there. We're gaining more cable companies, more TV stations every week, and of course there are a huge number of people out there who own satellite dishes. If you're watching us in an area where we're not on local cable or local television and you're watching us on satellite, all you have to do is call your local cable company or TV station and tell them that the Shootin' Show is there, and it's free to them, certainly. And we would like nothing more than to get on as many stations as possible. Well, friends, I look forward to seeing the Judge on next week's program. If we can get him away, he's so busy. But we sincerely, again, appreciate every one of you being there. The Health Club is doing great. We need every one of you to get involved with our Health Club. One, it helps us, but it also helps you. So anyway, let's go back to our program. Now, friends, the Great Soldier of Fortune Convention is coming up in September 27 through October 1. And you know what a great time we've had out at the convention in the past. It's going to be held at the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. I know a lot of you would really enjoy coming out and being with us at the convention. For information on the Soldier of Fortune Convention, give them a call, 1-800-800-7630. Again, 1-800-800-7630 for information on the Soldier of Fortune Convention. And now let's join Harold Terry and Jim Coleman for some information I think you'll all want to hear.
It's dealing with a man with a knife and one with a pistol. Huh?
Yeah.
All right. Who is the most possibility of doing you great bodily harm? The worstest.
As we've talked about, under 22, 21 feet, the knife's probably going to get you first.
The knife's going to get you. So what Jim would do is the man is pointing a gun at him. It doesn't make any difference. we know that these little projectiles, a man can take one of them, maybe not a carbine. Well, what he's going to do, he's going to shoot the man with the knife first, and then he's going to shoot the man with the gun second, and he's going to do it in about 5/100ths of a second. Let's see what we're going to do now. Jim, are you ready? Two hands on this. Shooter ready? Knife man first, pistol man second. Shooter ready? Fire! All right. He eliminated his problem right quick with that man with the knife and the fellow with the... Now, let's turn it around. This man has got a pistol, and this fella's got a shotgun. No discussion. Shotgun man first, because I can take a pistol bullet. I take one at this distance from him, but I can't take that double-aught buckshot that man's got down there. So we're going to reverse it because of the situation. Same distance. Shooter ready. Stand by. Fire! All right. He might have got winged in there. He might when he pointed the gun down, this man might have run. They can do anything. But we go for the biggest instrument. The biggest instrument that we deal with. All
right, let me ask you one. All right. Let's say that target number 1 here has the knife. I'm sorry, target number 1 has the handgun. Target number 2 has the knife. And we're still under 21 feet. What are we going to do?
I'd shoot the man with the pit and the knife.
The knife first.
Yeah, because there is a mental thing about this that he might... He shot the staple off. How did he do that?
Jim, you're more accurate than you realize.
That's what I meant to do.
Even as we speak. All right. Well, we know, but I don't see a lot of people, maybe in the movies, that if he shoots this man with the knife, with the gun, and this man with a knife is going to attack him, and he's got all that area to run. Thinking about our psychology part about it, what do people do? People are either can overpower you or they leave. They're people that we are going to, you know, we're not going to cut him any slack. If this man was back here and he had the knife, the chances of him getting to Jim when Jim's already fired this shot, and Jim, the adrenaline's at as high as it's going to go. All right? You got the man with the pistol here, Jim, and you got the man with the knife back there. Let's see what you're going to do to him. Shooter ready? Fire! Get him, Jim! All right.